So in this tutorial I'm going to teach you packages in Java, and so we're going to learn why packages are useful in Java and how packages provide some of the features to Java. So basically a package is a container for classes. So I'm going to write here a package is a container for classes. So let's suppose you have created your own Java project in the Eclipse IDE. So let me just show you here. So you can see that this is our Eclipse IDE and we have created a project named test here. So in this project you can see here that this is our file thinkx.java, and you can see that in the top of it we have written that this belongs to the package test. So if you will explore this test module in the source, then you can see that there is a test package here. You can see the symbol is for package. So if you just right click here, so you can see here that this symbol is for package. So basically a package is just a folder that contains all of your Java files or all of your classes. So basically a package is a container, or you can even say that a package is basically it encapsulates your classes. So you can also say packages encapsulates classes. So you know that classes also encapsulates data and the code. Similarly, packages encapsulates classes. So someone can ask, like, what is the use of package then? Why do we need to have a container for all these classes, and why do we need to encapsulate classes? So the answer is basically there are two reasons why we need packages. One is to resolve naming conflict. Resolve naming conflict. So let's discuss this first one here, then we will move on to the second. So let's suppose we have created a project, and in the project we have created a file. Let's suppose the name of the file is student file, or I will write student.java. So let's suppose I've created this file in our project, and let's suppose it does not belong to any package, right? So if you have created a file named as student.java, so let's suppose there is another project created by some other programmer, and incidentally he has also created a file with this same name. He might have created a student.java, and let's take it to the internet level. So let's suppose on the internet there is a programmer who creates a file student.java, and similarly from the other side of the world there is another programmer who creates a file with the same name. So that is going to create a naming conflict. So packages basically create a namespace of classes. So basically namespace means that package has the names of all the classes. So packages are unique for each and every project. So if you want to create a file in a particular package with this name, you cannot create the same file under this package name. So let's suppose the package was test. So this means that our file belongs to the package test, and so you cannot create another file with the same name. But let's suppose there is some other package that belongs to some other programmer, which is named as, let's suppose it's test2. So it can have a class or a file with the same name. So you can consider package as a folder that contains a file with this name, and you know that you cannot create two files of the same name in a same folder. If you want to create the same file, you will have to create another folder for it. So that's the main use of package. That's the first one, which is to resolve the naming conflict. So the second one is to introduce access control. So as we know that in classes there are members and the member functions. So if we want to restrict some other object of some other class to access a particular member, we can use a private variable in front of it. So we have actually covered the member access specifiers, which are the public, private and protected. So I'm going to write it again here: public, private and protected. So you see that Java basically provides a security feature to a class so that no one outside of the class can access a particular member if it is private, right? So similarly, Java introduces packages because it wants that some other programmer or some other package which has a particular file should not be able to access the contents or the data of this other file. So let's suppose the student.java has some members like int a, b, c or d, like this. So we do not want some other package or some other project to access this particular file because it will be a security breach. So that's why packages introduces access control. So if you will write public, private or protected in front of some variable or a function or in front of a class, so let's see what will be the impact on that particular variable, function and class with respect to packages. So let's see, I'm going to draw here a table. So I'm going to illustrate you how these member access specifiers are used to basically prevent some security breaches inside a particular package. So here is the table. So as you can see here that I have divided this table in some columns where I have mentioned the member access specifiers, which is the private, public, protected and default. So basically default case is the case where we are not actually writing any one of these member access specifiers. So that does make a difference from the public access specifier. So let's see. So in the first two rows, you can see here in these two rows, we are considering the same package. And in these three rows, we are considering the different packages. Sorry, in these three rows, we are considering the same package. And in these two, we are considering the different package. So let's take a look what will happen if I will write private in front of a variable, a function or a class. So let's suppose I am writing here private int a equals 10. So in the same class, you can access this variable. You can even change the value of this variable. So you can actually access this variable a if it is in the same class. So if you have a same package but you have an extended class or a subclass, you cannot access the private member in that subclass, and in the non subclass also you cannot access this private variable. So you can access the private member access specifier only if it is in the same class. If it is outside the class you cannot access it. So that's the case with the same package. So let's suppose there is another package or another program and it has a subclass. So in that subclass also you cannot access the private member access specifier or the private variable function or class. Similarly, if you have a different package or a different program and it has a non subclass or simply a class, then also you cannot access this private variable. So you can see that if you are assigning private in front of a particular variable, you are actually restricting it to the same class. So that's basically a good security feature. So let's move on to the public access specifier. So we know that we are using this public access specifier since the beginning. We are using it in front of the main function. So when we are using public in front of the main function, we can access that function in the same class. Considering that it is in the same package, you can also access this main function in the subclass and in the non subclass also. So if you have created some other class, you can access the main function because it is public. So even if I write a variable public int x equals 12, so you can access it in the same class, subclass or non subclass, and you can even access these variables and functions even from outside this package. That means that some other program can also access these variables or functions. So the question arises here, why we are using public in front of the main function. The answer is that the JVM is an external program or external machine. It's an external environment, and if you want to access a particular function which is in some package from outside the package, so you will have to make it public. That's the main reason we are using public in front of the main function. So let's move on to the protected one, and you can see here that protected is different from the private. You can access the protected variable in the same class, in the same subclass, which is the extended class or the derived class. You can also access it in the non subclasses. You can even access it in the subclass of different package, but you cannot access a protected variable in the non subclass of some different package. So let's suppose this different package has some another class which is not a derived class, so you cannot access this protected variable from that. So that's the main use of protected variable. So let's move on to the default case, a case where we are not assigning any value to a variable, function or a class. So all these concepts apply on variables and functions and class. It's same. You will have to, you don't even need to remember this table. It's obvious. And when you will use this, you will use programming, you will use Java in your career, you will get to know when to use private, public, protected, or when to use a default case. So let's suppose in the default case I assign a variable y as 13. So you can see that I have not mentioned any member access specifier. So in that case you can access this variable in the same class of the same package. You can access it in the same subclass, same package. You can even access it in some other class or some non subclasses of the same package, but you cannot access this variable y, which is the default case, in the different packages. So remember, there is a difference between using public and not using any specifier. So if you are using the default case, you will not be able to access the particular function or a particular variable or a particular class from outside this program. That's why it is necessary that you write public in front of the main function so that the JVM can access that main function and run your program. So in this tutorial we have seen the main use of packages. We have seen how it resolves the naming conflicts and how it provides some security features so that some other programs cannot indirectly or directly make a security breach in your programs. So in the next tutorial we are going to cover the interfaces, and in that tutorial we will learn how interfaces provide features in Java programming language. So that's for it. Thanks for watching.